Thank you all so much for joining. The topic I have for us to discuss on today is avoiding the home mortgage trap. For those of us who live in America, in Europe, in Canada, who have bought homes and paying a mortgage on it, you're going to understand this better. But I'm going to also break it down so that anyone else anywhere in the world can understand, because there are different types of mortgages that people do take, right? That is why we are talking about today, avoiding the home mortgage trap. Again, I am your host, Paul Ngwasiri. I'm a real estate agent here in Dallas, Texas. I cover the DFW market, that is a Dallas Fort Worth metropolitan market. I can extend all the way to Houston, maybe San Antonio. But I can actually write contracts anywhere in the state of Texas because I'm licensed in the whole state of Texas, right? That is who I am. Guys, the beginning of 2025, as your trusted real estate agent in the Dallas Fort Worth metropolitan area, I decided that I'm going to be dedicated to bring you information about home ownership. Usually every Thursday, I plan to take you out to new communities where you are going to see what new constructions are going on, what the communities look like, and in a bit to whet your appetite, you to come to that point where you decide to actually own a property yourself. Today, for those of you who follow the news, it is a rainy day, it's a cold day, it's a snowy day, it's an icy day in the Dallas Fort Worth area. I did not go out today to show you the communities, but decided to do a Facebook Live to still meet up with the objective of bringing you information about real estate. In the United States, in Canada, and I believe other countries around the world, when people buy a house, it is not a common thing to just pay that house cash out of pocket. So a common thing that happens is the fact that you will have to get a mortgage loan from the bank. That way you are able to get that house and then you pay off that loan within 30 years with interest payments. I said 30 years, that is because it is predominant that most people who take a mortgage loan take it for 30 years, but you can actually get a loan for maybe 15 years or 20 years. That is possible, but generally, generally it is 30 years. I salute my sister Mangi Nadesh from Maryland. Thanks for joining. Mano, if you don't mind, go ahead and share this broadcast so that other people can join and benefit from this information. By the way, Happy New Year to you all joining. So typically when you buy a house, you would have to take a loan from the bank. Usually that will be 30 years, and you have to pay off that house in 30 years' time. Within 30 years, you would have paid more than double the real amount that you actually took from the bank to buy that house. That is why I want to put it in perspective to anyone who is interested, so that when you go into buying a house, you should put all of these things together so that you can make an informed decision, right? Now, when you buy a car, even if you pay that car cash, there is something that they call total cost of ownership. That a car is $4,000 does not mean it costs you only $4,000 to have that car. It might cost you $4,000 to buy it, but it costs you more than $4,000 to own that car. That's what they call the total cost of ownership. What that means is when you buy a car for $4,000, you have to consider that after you have paid off that $4,000, you still have to put gas in that car. You still have to buy auto insurance. You have to change oil every now and then. You need to wash the car. There's a lot of other things, basic maintenances that you have to do on the car, and all of that comes with money. When you put all of that together and you have owned that car for 10 years, you probably have spent like $20,000 by having that car. And that is what we call total cost of ownership. Now let's bring that down to owning a house. When you buy a house, there's a lot of cost that is behind buying a house that if you don't have this information I'm giving you, which is my duty to give you, this information, you are going to buy a house, and instead of it being a blessing to you, you will get to a point and you start looking at that house as a curse. But that's not really how it is supposed to be. Before I continue, I want to shout out to Agent Dan, who is my mentor in real estate. He has done a video covering what it really means to consider total cost of ownership, right? Total cost of ownership. Agent Dan has done a video on that. Follow Agent Dan on Facebook. Follow Agent Dan on Instagram. You're going to see that video. If you buy a house, you need to consider the cost that is hidden behind. You need to understand that if you see a house in the market and that house says $300,000, it is not just $300,000 that will be the total cost of owning that house. You have to consider that once you buy that house, you have to pay homeowners insurance, you have to pay property taxes, you have to pay maybe homeowners association fee. If you get into that house and your AC is broken, you need to fix it. If your pipe is broken, you need to fix it. If your cooker is broken, you need to fix it. But if you are in an apartment, some of those things will be taken care of, right? And I am not telling you all of this to discourage you from buying. I am telling you this. I am a real estate agent, so it doesn't make sense for me to be discouraging you from buying a house because that is where we earn our living. But I want you to make an informed decision when you set on to buying a house. Now, understand that my objective in this real estate business is I'm interested in you getting what you want than what I will get after I sell you a house. I don't know if that makes sense. I am more interested in you being in a house and happy that you are in that house than to encourage you to buy a house and get into it, and then few months down the road you feel overwhelmed, exhausted. You know what I'm talking about? So that is not my objective. I just want you to make informed decision. This is not a discouragement from buying a house. I'm just telling you how you can avoid the home mortgage trap by applying some of the things that will be uncovered in this video, right? When you buy a house, it comes with all of these hidden costs that we don't see them upfront. We're just excited about the beauty of the house, the size of the house, the location of the house, but we don't know what it takes to actually own that house. Like I said, if you are set to buy a house, the ideal situation would be to pay the house cash. But like you and I know, it is not a very easy thing to have $350,000 sitting in your bank account that you can just go at once, take it out, and buy a house, right? That brings us to almost everyone having to take a mortgage loan in order to buy a house. If you can't pay your house cash and you must borrow, the things I want to let you know is that you must consider that the price you see tagged on the house, that is not the only money you're going to be paying for the life of that loan. You have to have that in the back of your mind somewhere. Many people buy their homes before they realize the cost of ownership, like I'm talking. And at that point, they have 30 years to deal with that issue, or to deal with the fact that they didn't really make an informed decision before taking that bold step of owning a house. And I want to submit to you that buying a house is not something that you get up overnight and do, because that is the most significant financial decision you will ever make, in my opinion, as long as you're in the United States or in Canada or wherever in the world. Buying a house, deciding to buy a house, is the most important financial decision you will make. So you don't want to do it anyhow. You need to sit down and put thought in it and make informed decision. All right. So that is why I'm bringing this to you. So many people buy their homes and then they only realize this later when they've already bought, and then they feel stuck, right? So, but if you must borrow to buy your house, which is what most of us, including myself, do or have done, you must borrow to keep it low. Borrow the least amount you can borrow to buy a house. I know many people feel like, you know, If I borrow low, what kind of house am I going to get? And that is something that we are really going to get into, because it is really a problem as far as buying a house is concerned, or making that decision to buy a house is concerned. So if you must borrow, please keep it low. Don't go for exorbitant mortgage amount, because you are going to feel the pain down the road. As a matter of fact, before you decide to buy, understand that you don't want to go for a house whose mortgage payment is more than 1/4 of your household monthly income. Yes, I said that. Do not buy a house with mortgage payments that is more than 1/4 of your household monthly payment. And I know after making this statement, I was watching who already own homes, you have probably made a quick calculation and be like, well, this is probably not for me, because I'm paying like 3/4 of my gross income monthly towards my mortgage. A lot of us find ourselves in that situation, and that is why we feel overwhelmed. And this information is to help those who have not yet gotten into this situation to avoid that trap. When a mortgage loan officer originates your loan, they make sure that your debt to income ratio is not more. It is encouraged that you should be at about 39%. All right. What you'll be paying out for debt, which includes your mortgage and your credit card, your car note, if they put all your debts together, including your mortgage, it should not be more than 39% of your income. But sometimes they can stretch it up to 49, but they will not give approval for a loan that your mortgage payment will be 50% of your household income. Why? Because the loan officers understand that buying a house does not stop other things in your life from happening. You still have emergencies that can happen. 50% of your income is only going to pay your mortgage, and then your AC gets bad, you may not have money to fix your AC, because number one, you still have to provide groceries at home, you still have to pay your electricity bill, your water bill, your telephone bill, your car insurance, your health insurance. You still have to pay all of that, and sometimes 50% of your income might not be able to cover that. Right? So when you go to buy a house, you need to consider all of this and make sure that you are only able to pay 1/4 of your household monthly income towards your mortgage. That way, you will still have enough money in your hands that you can still use for emergency or other necessities in your life, especially for those who have children, right? You don't want to use all the money you have and put it towards mortgage, and there's an emergency with a child and you're not able to respond to it. That a greater position or percentage of Americans cannot respond to an emergency that would demand $1,000 cash, because not because they don't work, they actually work, but because they work and they have not made informed decisions, and all the money they are working, in the case of mortgage, might be going towards their mortgage payment. Now they have an emergency and they are not able to handle it because they don't have any money, even though they work, right? Yes, I don't want my people to find themselves in that situation. That is why I'm taking the pain to bring this information out to you today on Facebook, so that we all can benefit from it. Let's say you are making $4,000 a month. Total money you bring home per month is $4,000. What I mean by 1/4 is that if you are buying a house, make sure that you'll be paying $1,000 for mortgage. Yes, that is for mathematics purposes, right? Make sure you are paying $1,000 for mortgage if you are making $4,000 a month. Gross, husband, wife put together, if you are making 4,000, then the most advice you get as mortgage payment should be $1,000. That way you still have $3,000 to invest in other things, to save for emergency, to take care of your bills and every other thing, right? An average mortgage payment in America, I would say, is about $2,500 averagely. If you get a mortgage that pays $2,000 or $2,500 every month, then your gross income, gross your take home, you and your spouse or you alone, if you are not married, has to be at least $12,000. If you're taking a mortgage to pay $2,500, you must be taking home at least $12,000 a month. That is an idea of what I'm talking about, 1/4 of your total monthly income. Because remember that your whole life is not about owning a house. There is a lot of other things that surround you, and that you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you sleep and you cannot really sleep because you are in between. Should I pay this mortgage and then don't take this child to the hospital, or should I go without food so that I can pay this mortgage? No, you have to make that decision well ahead of time before you get into that mortgage. The second thing is that take a mortgage payment such that even if you lose the job that qualified you for that mortgage, for those of us who are in America, in Canada, I don't know about Europe, you should be able to maybe do DoorDash delivery and still be able to pay your mortgage. You should be able to drive Uber and be able to pay your mortgage. You should be able to do some little thing around, maybe go to Amazon warehouse and work and still be able to pay your mortgage if you lose your job while looking for another job that pays better. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you are paying $5,000 in mortgage and then you lose that job and then you are not able to pay it again in the next 2 months, and the bank comes and takes the house, and you would have wasted the money you put for down payment, the one you have paid for mortgage up to that point. You will not like your life at that time. Go for something that is affordable within your reach, so that even if you don't have that job anymore, you should be able to still go ahead and do some meager thing around together with your spouse and still be able to pay that mortgage and keep life going. This is something that, as a real estate agent, I have observed most people in our community face challenges with. And the description on this live show said that you don't need to have a six-figure job to be able to own a house in USA. You don't. Some people think that they have to get that IT job that is paying them $150,000 a year to be able to own a house. No. Even if you are working in Amazon, you are still able to own a house in America. The question is, how much of a house can you afford? That is where the problem is. Most of us, when we think of buying a house, we are thinking of one of our friends or cousins or uncles' house that is very big. And when we think of buying a house, that is a picture that is in our head. And so it limits us because we don't have the finances that that person had to be able to qualify for that house. Whereas if you started at your level, by the time you grow your income to a point where you can buy a bigger house, that smaller house you bought can automatically become your investment property, and then you move into a bigger house, probably when your family has grown bigger, and then that house is in the market with very low mortgage payment, and whoever is renting that house is able to pay it because the monthly payment is low, and that monthly payment is able to continue paying off that mortgage for you, and money is not coming out from your pocket to pay that mortgage. That is what many people don't know. But when we think of buying a house, we think of, oh, I visited Agent Paul, he has a very big house. That is the kind of house that is in your head. But I want to also let you know that if you have time and talk to those people who have those big houses that you're admiring, and they explain to you the stress they're going through by keeping that house, you may not want to buy a house like that. If you are looking at the glory, try to find out the story behind the glory. Yes, a lot of people have bought big houses because they saw some other person bought a big house. But that other person might be paying that house from proceeds of some investment that they have already done, and they just sit and money is coming to them so they can afford a big house like that. But you don't have any investment. You have instead decided to buy a big house, and then what you are supposed to be investing, you are using it to pay a mortgage, and then you cannot sleep, you cannot feed well, your children are looking tattered just because you want to live in a big house and make a name, which doesn't make sense. If you want to buy a house, you don't need to have a six-figure job in America to buy a house. Take that from me. You don't need to. Buy a house that you can afford with the job you are doing. Yes, with the job you are doing, If your family needs a house, if you have children, they are playing in an apartment and the neighbors downstairs are hitting the ceiling, or your children are jumping and disturbing, they are calling the apartment office every day to report you, calling the police that you are disturbing their peace because children are playing upstairs. I tell you, you can buy a single family house with that job you are doing if you are, well, what should I use? If you decide to stay within your means, you can actually get a house. If you are truthful to yourself, you can actually get a house without having a six-figure job in America. That is true. That is true. So go for what you can afford. Go for what you can afford. If you must borrow to buy a house, please keep it low. Don't go and borrow $700,000 to buy a house, a 5-bedroom house, 4 bathroom, a big playground, a media room, and you are living in that house alone. All that space, you are paying for it, but you are not using it. You cannot sleep. You are paying for a guest room, and in your head, just in case somebody comes here to sleep, they will have a place to sleep. And that someone might come to sleep in your house maybe one time in 1 year, but you have paid about $500 to maintain that room throughout the year. Cut your coat according to your material, as people will say. All right. Be truthful to yourself. That's the first place to start. Be truthful to yourself. You are not doing anything to impress anybody. You are doing it because you need it. And the people you are even trying to impress don't even care about you. They don't. They really don't care about you. You can buy a house in America and leave that apartment and start building equity for yourself with the job that you are currently doing. With the job that you are currently doing, you don't need a six-figure job to buy a house. Yes. If you are making $5,000 a month and you are two of you making between $8,000 to $10,000 a month, husband and wife, you can own property in America and pay it comfortably. Yes, take that from me. If you want to know how, contact me after this live and I'm going to walk you through. All right. That was the first point to escape this home mortgage trap, was that if you are borrowing, make sure you keep it low, keep it within your means. Next thing is that you can decide to move to a less expensive area. There are areas, especially those of us who are working from home, right? There are areas that are still developing, and so prices of real estate in that area are relatively low. For example, where I'm in Forney, going all the way down to Crandall and all of those deep places in there are still developing. So cost of real estate here is still relatively low. Instead of struggling to stick to places around downtown Dallas and stuff like that, if you can afford it, that's good, right? But if you move a little bit away from town, you're going to get more affordable property. And in the long run, as that place develops, the value of your property also develops with it. So it increases with development that comes to that area. But then you would have secured a low mortgage and take advantage of the appreciation in the future. That's another way to escape this trap. Instead of going to highly sophisticated areas where the value of real estate does not really grow that much anymore because the place is already saturated, go to areas that are still opening. In Cameroon, we call it new layout. Go to new layout, go to new development areas and get your name on a house right there. And with time, you're going to enjoy the benefits of buying in that area. That's going to save you a lot of money in the future, right? It will save you a lot of money in the future. And talking about this, if you can afford a house for $600,000, hey, why not? If you have a big family that needs a 5-bedroom house and you can afford it, why not? Go for it, right? But this is particularly targeting those who will go for it just to impress people, and then they cannot sleep because they don't have the funds to keep up with that size of the house. So I hope that this information is making sense to those of you watching. You can also decide to, as a third point, is that for you to avoid this whole mortgage trap, you can decide to pay off your mortgage fast. Like I said, I have a YouTube video on this, how you can pay off your mortgage fast and avoid the interest payments, because in the long run, the money you pay for interest. It is very interesting. Most people who own houses, especially first-time home buyers, they do not understand that in the first 10 to 15 years, all the money they have been paying is going towards interest. Imagine you're paying like $3,100 for your mortgage payment every month, and in that $3,100, about $1,900 is going for interest payment. And then the rest is going to property taxes and mortgage insurance and all of that, homeowners insurance. And in that 3,100, only about $250 to $300 is going towards your principal. Look, if you stay at that rate for 30 years, if that house was 300,000, you will pay 1 point something million dollars on that house. That video tells you how to quickly pay that off, to reduce or to save some money from interest payments. Pay off fast as much as you can. If you already have a mortgage now, and let's say interest rates drop, you can decide to refinance that property. And after you refinance the property, they are going to drop down the interest rate, but then maintain the same amount of money you were paying at a higher interest rate. Do not change that amount, but endeavor to instead reduce the loan term to maybe 15 years term or 20 years term instead of a 30 years mortgage. I don't know if that makes sense. If you had a mortgage and you were paying, say, 15, it was a 30 years mortgage, right? Say you've already paid for 5 years, and then you refinance the house. Instead of taking another 30 years term, because refinancing a house is simply another mortgage you are taking, right? It's simply another mortgage you are taking. If you do that, you are going to, instead of taking that 30 years mortgage, you are going to reduce it and instead take a 15 year or a 20 years and maintain that payment. That way you're going to pay it off faster and save on mortgage interest payment. Yes. But if you go watch that my video, you're going to get more insight on that. And also reducing your term of loan. That is for those who are buying it for the first time. Instead of going in for a 30 years, you can negotiate to go in for a 15-year loan or a 20 years loan. To go for a 20 years loan, that would mean you will have to buy a smaller house so that you can pay it off faster. Because reducing the term means that how much you are paying per month will be higher, if that makes sense. If you have a 30-year mortgage and you're paying $3,000 a month, if you reduce it to 15 years, you may have to now be paying $4,500 for the same house. I don't know if that makes sense. But since you might not be able to afford $4,500 a month, you probably, instead of buying a $300,000 home that will be paying $4,500, you might now go for a $200,000 home that can allow you to still pay maybe $2,500 or the same $3,000, and then you pay it off faster, and it's going to save you money in the long run. And I want to make you understand that when we talk of having money, most of the times we only think of money that comes into our hands or into our bank account. But no, increasing your income or saving money also means money that was supposed to leave your account, which did not leave. That has also increased your financial value. So if you're supposed to pay $50,000 as interest payment, and then you do something that stopped you from paying that $50,000, or instead of paying $50,000, ended up paying $10,000, you have actually increased your financial value by $40,000, even though $40,000 did not physically leave from somewhere and enter your bank account, but it did not also leave your bank account to go somewhere, right? We are doing this so that you can keep your mortgage payment under control and save more money and keep more money with you. Because like I always say, which is something that I will talk about in my other live show, I deal predominantly with real estate and personal finance. These are the two things that you will see me come online to talk about. In my personal finance, I'll let us know more about the fact that having money does not only mean money that comes in, it also means money that has not gone out. We will talk about that more in that area, right? My people, when you set to buy a house, make sure that you have asked yourself questions, talk to professionals like me and other people in our community who are doing real estate, and you are not going to regret it. Trust me, like I told you, you do not need a six-figure job to do what? To get a house. If you want to get a house with whatever job you are doing now, within the next 3 months, contact me. I'll be I'll make you understand that it is possible for you to get that house if you are true to yourself and decide to work within your means. Yes. Don't beat yourself. Don't look up to other people who have mansions because you don't know what they are going through. You don't know what they went through to have that house. You don't know what they are going through to maintain that house. And you don't want to find yourself in that situation. God, who gave you the job He gave you now, knows why He gave you that job. Be faithful with it and do the most you can do with it, because the Bible makes us to understand. And you will always hear me talk about the Bible because the Bible is part and parcel of me. The Bible has so much information about life decisions, about finances, about just the way life should be. You will hear me most of the time talk about the Bible, draw inspiration from the Bible, right? You have to make sure that you are faithful with little things. That's what I was saying. The Bible says that if you are not faithful with little things, God cannot commit bigger things to you. Understand that the money that you need or whatever you have needed to be anything that you need to be, God has already given you. Because the Bible says that He has given us everything that pertains to life and godliness, which means that we already have everything. But the bad thing is that we do not appreciate the thing that God has given to us and make the most out of what He has given to us. We keep looking at what He has given to another person, but we do not know what that other person has gone through before getting to that place where God has given them that. We do not know what that person did with the little that God gave them before it produced them what you are now seeing. So my encouragement to you is, wherever you are, believe that you are in God's plan. God has put you there, and God has given you the resources He has given to you. You don't need a six-figure job. Whether you are working in Dollar Tree, you are a travel nurse, you are a nurse, you work with Amazon warehouse, or wherever you work, as long as you are working and you have a stable income, and you feel that it is time for you to own a house, maybe because your family is growing, maybe because you want to start building equity, and in the future you eventually buy your house, or you sell the house and get some money from there for whatever project, now is the time. You don't need to wait. We have been deceived a lot. I've come across people who thought that to be able to buy a house, you need to put down about $100,000. But when I met them and I spoke with them, they were surprised that they were only required to put down $15,000, and immediately they jumped on the boat. And within 6 months, they got their house and they are good to go. All right. Another way, the fourth way now, another way that you can avoid this trap is that you can save enough money to put towards down payment so that you offset the mortgage payment. Okay, let's say the house is 300,000, they're asking for 3% down payment, and you decide to come with 10% down payment. So you decide to come with $30,000 to put it towards your down payment. That significantly is going to reduce what? Your monthly payment, because it's like you're buying something for 30,000, and then you have already put down maybe $10,000, right? So they're going to divide now by 20,000 over the length of the loan, and so that amount is going to be reduced. So you can take your time, save up some money, and make a huge down payment. Then your monthly payment is going to be reduced, and you will not have that stress that many people that I have visited have. They cannot sleep, they're running helter skelter just to make sure that they keep up with the mortgage. No, it is not supposed to be so. If that was a blessing that God gave you, the Bible says that His blessings make it rich and add no sorrow, right? And so sometimes we even think that God has not blessed us. No, God has blessed us, but we have taken responsibilities that we are not supposed to have and put them on the resources that God has blessed us with. And then those resources that God blessed us with are not enough for the responsibilities we have put on ourselves, because it is us who put that responsibility on ourselves. It's not God. Okay? It's not God. If you are able to afford a 3-bedroom house and with 2 bathrooms, and you decide to go and get a 5-bedroom house, where God did not give you resources for a 5-bedroom house, you decided to put that responsibility, a burden of extra 2 bedrooms on yourself. God did not put that. It was your decision. But at that point, you cannot say that God is not blessing you or God has not blessed you. No, He has blessed you with resources that can afford a 3-bedroom house. But you have decided to add more responsibility, and now you don't have resources to cover those responsibilities. So please stay within your means, be truthful to yourself, be truthful to yourself, and go for what you can afford. Go for what you can afford, and you will be able to enjoy the blessing. You will not see any sorrow in the blessing of home ownership that God has given. So ask yourself after this show, how much of a house can you afford? How much of a house can you afford? When you think of buying a house, do you have an image of some other person's house in your head, or you just want to buy what you need, or what you see another person has? Divide your income, both you and your wife, if you are married, divide your monthly income by 4 and see what house you can get to pay monthly with that amount. Understand that when you buy a house, it doesn't end only with the amount you see tagged on the house. There is homeowners insurance you have to pay. There is interest that you have to pay. There is property taxes that you have to pay. There is homeowners association fee. You probably will be paying somebody to cut your lawn, to mow your lawn, right? Things might be broken in the house and you have to pay. Remember that your bill is going to increase because your house is now bigger. So put all of these things together when you think of buying a house, because that will be very important in the long run. So I hope that this information was beneficial to you. I have a lot of houses in the market for sale. The market is getting a little bit better now. So if you're interested in buying, hit me up. I'll be able to walk you through, show you some properties. I have properties from the low 300s, even in the 200s, 3 bedrooms. Everyone watching me, if you're at least working, this is not the time to continue waiting. Get what your income can afford, because the longer you wait, the more expensive real estate becomes, and your income might never be enough, right? Your income might never be enough. So yeah, again, I am your real estate agent here in the Dallas area. Committed this 2025 to bring you educative content as far as owning real estate in America is concerned. It was my pleasure being with you all here today, and thank you all so much for your time. Continue to support me by sharing, by talking about me to others. Refer people to me if they want to buy. I have properties scattered all over the DFW area, Forney, in Anna, in Frisco, Fort Worth, all over. If you know anyone who is looking to buy, please, that is the best thing you can do for me. Thank you so much for your loyalty. Thank you for following me. God bless you.